This lesson is the first of our circles unit, and we're going to talk about area, circumference, central angles, and arc measures. So our learning target is I can solve problems about area, circumference, central angles, and arc measures. Okay, so these two formulas you probably know, but just in case you don't. So area of a circle is area equals pi times r squared. And r is the radius of the circle. So if you don't remember, the radius is from the center and then to the edge. So it's half of the circle. Circumference is c equals pi times d, and d stands for diameter. Alright, and if you don't remember, the diameter is the length across the circle. So diameter is the same as 2 times the radius, or radius is the half of diameter. So those are two formulas you need to know. You need to know when to use them. You need to memorize them if you don't already know them. Alright, so let's look at some problems. So this first one says we're going to find the area in terms of pi. That might be a new term that you haven't seen before. And rounded to the nearest tenth, so to 1 decimal place. Okay, first thing we're going to do area in terms of pi. So area is pi times the radius squared. So if you're going to do it in terms of pi, you're just going to take the numbers. So 12 squared is 144. And you always put a whole number in front of pi when you write it. So that is your answer of area in terms of pi. So if you want to do rounded to the nearest tenth, you're going to do 144 times pi. Make sure that you're using the pi button in the Desmos calculator or in a TI-84 calculator and not the abbreviated version 3.14. Use the actual pi button. So when you put it in your calculator, we're going to round it to the nearest tenth, so to 1 decimal place. So our answer is 452.4. Okay, so you just have to read the question carefully because sometimes they're going to ask for in terms of pi, which is this one, and then sometimes they're going to ask for a rounded one, which is this one. They're not usually going to ask for both. We're just doing both to make sure you understand it. All right, the next one, we're going to find the circumference in terms of pi again, and rounded to the nearest tenth. So the circumference formula is pi times the diameter. So our radius is 12. So we're going to do 2 times 12 because that's the radius and we need the diameter. Because we're doing in terms of pi, we're going to take just the numbers and multiply them together. So 2 times 12 is 24. The whole number always goes in front of the symbol pi. So this is our answer of the circumference in terms of pi. And now when we do rounded to the nearest tenth, we're just going to put 24 pi in our calculator. Make sure, once again, that you're using the pi button. So when we round to 1 decimal place, we get 75.4. So that's the two ways that you find area and circumference in terms of pi and rounded to the nearest tenth. Alright, so I'm going to let you try this one. Notice that you're given the diameter, and for some of the formulas you need radius, and some of them you actually need the diameter. So pause the video and try your answer, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so here's what I got. I got area is 841 pi. So the diameter was 58, which makes the radius 29. 29 squared is 841. And then when I rounded it to the nearest tenth, I got 2,641. Alright, for circumference, I got 58 pi. And then for rounded to the nearest tenth, I got 182.2. So hopefully you got the same thing. If not, you can ask me for help. Okay, so now we're going to look at some problems where we use area and circumference, but we're going to find a radius or a diameter. So the first one, we're going to find the diameter of a circle with an area of 615.75. So if we know the area is 615.75 and we know the formula is pi r squared, we can work backwards. We're going to solve for r. So we're going to get rid of pi. So we're going to divide both sides by pi. make sure you're using the pi button in the calculator. Get approximately 195.999 equals r squared. And then next we're going to get rid of the square by taking the square root of both sides. Alright, so you get that r is 14. Now notice the problem actually asks for diameter. So if the radius is 14, the diameter is twice as much as that, so the diameter is 28. Okay, so look at the other one to the other side. We're going to find the radius of a circle with a circumference of 35 pi. So we know the circumference is 35 pi. We know that the formula for circumference is pi times diameter. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the pi by dividing by pi on both sides. So what's nice is we just get a whole number. Okay, and then, so we're trying to find the radius. We have the diameter. We know that the diameter is twice as much as the radius. So if I divide this by 2, it'll give me what the radius is. So 17.5 is my answer. Alright, so now we're going to use these two formulas and we're going to work between formulas. So they like to do this on the ACT and stuff like that. So we're going to find the area of a circle with a circumference of 18.84. So 18.84 is equal to the circumference. So notice the only variable is d, so that's what I'm going to solve for. So I'm going to get rid of pi by dividing by pi on both sides. So I find that my diameter is, I'm just going to use a lot of decimals. Okay. Alright, so in order to use the area formula, I have to know the radius. So I'm going to divide this by 2 to find that my radius is 2.998479. It keeps on going. Okay. So now, if I know that my area formula is pi times r squared, I can replace r with that number, square it, and times it by pi, and I'll have what my radius what my area is. I'll get approximately 28.2. Let me do 5. Okay. So if you have a little bit different, that might be because you rounded a little bit different than I did. I just don't round until the very end, so my answer is a little more accurate. Alright, so the next one, I'm going to find the circumference with a circle with an area of 289 pi. So if that's my area formula is pi r squared. I'm going to get r by itself, so I got to divide by pi on both sides. So 289 equals r squared. The only thing I can do to get rid of a square is to square root both sides. So r is equal to 17 because that's a nice perfect square. I like it when it works out like that. Okay, if I know the radius is 17, I can times that by 2 and I'll get my diameter is 34. Alright, and then if I know my circumference is pi times diameter, all I have to do is do 34 times pi. If I leave it in terms of pi, my answer is already there. But if I wanted to round that, let's do 106.8. Alright, so pretty easy as long as you know the formulas. Okay, so let's move on to this, because this may be some new information. So this is our central angles and arc measure. A central angle is an angle with its vertex at the center, hence the reason it's called central angle, and its two sides are radii, which is just the plural form of radius. So here, right here, is my central angle. Notice the vertex is at the center, and AB and BC are both radii. They're both radiuses. That's not a word, but they're both radii. Alright. So for example, if I wanted to name that, that would be angle ABC is a central angle in the circle B. The sum of all central angles in a circle is 360 degrees because that's how much a circle is measured by. Alright. So the measure of the arc formed by the endpoints of a central angle is equal to the degree, which is just the measure, of the central angle. And I'm writing this with my finger, so sorry if it's messy. Okay, so here's what I mean. Okay, this arc AC right here is equal to 84 degrees. All right, because that central angle is 84 degrees. Okay, this one right here, notice it has 3 letters. You have to follow those in order. So this is from A to D to C. All right, so if I do 360 minus 84, I get 276 degrees because an entire circle is going to equal 360 degrees. Another thing, when I see that there's only 2 letters, that is a minor arc, and I know that that measure is going to be less than 180. When I see 3 letters like this, that's a major arc, and I know it's going to be more than 180. So that's just another little helpful hint that you can kind of gauge if you're off on your measurements. Okay, so let's do this one. Directions. We're going to find each angle and arc measure. So the first thing, I'm looking for the measure of arc ST. Notice there's only 2 letters, so this is going to be a minor arc, less than 180. So the minor arc is going to be equal to the central angle that makes it. So that arc is 122 degrees. All right, now I'm going to look at the minor arc RS, which is right here. So notice that the blue and the yellow make a semicircle, which is going to equal 180 degrees. So if I do 180 minus 122, I get 58 degrees right here. So that means the arc is also 58 degrees. And then the last one I'm going to find is from S to R to T. So 3 letters. I know my answer is going to be more than 180. I know that this down here is a semicircle, so it's 180 degrees. And I know that the part in blue is 58. So if I add those 2 together, I get 238. So that's the measure of S to R to T. All right, we're going to find the angle and the arc measures that they ask us for. So the first one, I'm going to find the measure of arc JK. It's going to be equal to that central angle, so that's 21. The next one says find the measure of angle JNM. So notice that you have a semicircle, which has to equal 180 degrees. So 180 minus 21 is 159. So this one's 159 degrees. The next one, I'm going to find the measure of arc KL, which is this one. The yellow and the orange are vertical angles. So this one is also 159 degrees. Use a different color. This next one, I'm going to find the measure of major arc JKM. So you just go in the order it says, JKM. So the blue is 21, the orange is 159, the red right here has to also be 21 because vertical angles. And if I add all 3 of those together, I get 201 degrees. And then last, I'm going to find the measure of major arc MKL. So I have to go in the order it says, MKL. So I got 159 plus 21 plus another 159. And when I add all that together, I get 339 degrees. Okay, I want you to try this one. I want you to pause the video and see if you can find the measure of each angle and arc that it asks for. So pause it, and then we'll talk about the answers. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this one's just like those previous ones. The first one, I'm finding angle UXV. So it's right across from 72, the vertical angles. That's why it's 72. Next, it wants me to find arc ST. 72, 87, and that angle right here have to equal 180. So that's how I get 21. Then it asks me for arc VW. That's the same as you can kind of look at it's the same as these two over here. So if I add those two together, I get 108. When it asks for TW, I just have to add the 72 and the 21. And then when it says TVW, I had to add 87, 72, and 108. So that was really ugly, sorry, but that's how you get all those answers. So hopefully you got the same thing. If not, you can ask me for a little more clarification. Okay, so this one's a little different. We're going to find the value of x. So if you'll look at this, notice that this right here is making a semicircle, which has to equal 180 degrees. So when I add 15x minus 26 plus 26, it has to equal 180. And then I can work backwards and figure out what x equals. So the nice thing about this one is these two are going to cancel out when I get my like terms together. So the only thing I have to do is divide both sides by 15, and I get that x equals 12. That's my answer. Okay, so this one's very similar to that one we just did. The first thing I'm going to find is the value of x. I see that these two are making a semicircle, so I'm going to add them together and set them equal to 180, because that's what a semicircle equals. I'm going to get my like terms together. Then I'm going to add 18 to both sides. And then the last thing I'm going to do is divide by 23, so I get x equals 9. Next thing it asks me to do is the measure of JK. So I'm going to replace that x with the number 9, because I know that x equals 9. And I get that the measure is 68. The next one is the measure of MJ. I think the easiest thing to do is recognize that the orange and purple are making a semicircle. So 180 minus 68 is 112. And then the last one, I'm looking at measure arc LMK. You have to go in the order it says. So if we know this one is 112, we know that the purple is 68. And then these two are central angles, and they're vertical angles, so they're right across from each other. So if I add 68 and 68 and 112, oh, hold up, sorry. I need to find this other one over here. Oh, no, we're good. 68 plus 68 plus 112. Sorry, I confused myself. I get 248. It's hard to write and talk on this and use a calculator at the same time. Okay, here we go. All right, I want you to pause the video and I want you to try this one. So pause the video and try it in 1, 2, 3. All right, so here's what you should get. X equals 7. The measure of minor arc WX equals 135. The measure of minor arc YW equals 146. The measure of minor arc YX equals 79. And the measure of major arc BXW equals 304. If you need more explanation, you have to come ask me and I'll help you. All right, try your assignment and see if you can do this. I think you can. Good luck.